What's up, my dudes, and welcome to Random Tips and Tricks Part 2. Hope these help. Enjoy. So, for tip number 1, I wanted to talk about what your mindset should be as a CT when you're defending a site, especially if you're solo holding a site. A solo hold site would be something like B on Rust here, for example. The reason being that there's just basically one angle that has to be held, and B is just way easier to defend alone than A, and also your teammates have to work towards mid, so a normal setup would be 3 on A, 1 on mid, and 1 on B, I would suggest. And when you're the B player and solo holding the site, you should really not be focusing on getting kills. In general, you should not be when you're playing on CT side, because you have to understand that trade frags, so if you kill a terrorist and another terrorist kills you back, really benefits the terrorist team. The reason being, if you're it does not really matter on which map you're on, but especially in this example, as a solo B player, you don't want to be traded out. If there's 3 of your teammates on A and 1 working on mid, and the whole T team is coming over here, them losing 1 player doesn't really matter because they got you instead when trading, and that means the bomb site is undefended and your teammates need some time to rotate over, so the terrorists will already have site control and will have planted the bomb, and thus the timer turns around and suddenly your team is under time pressure. And you really don't want that to happen. So what you should be focusing on is not killing terrorists, it's delaying the terrorist attack. So if you like holding B, for example, you can jump spot something like this because you're gonna catch every T walking down these stairs by jump spotting if they don't smoke or flash, and like a very good smoke or flash execute is rare in this game anyway. So you can just jump spot on side like this, and if you see someone or like 1 or 2 players, you communicate with your team, you ask for rotates, and you don't just straight peek out and kill them. If you know they're pushing you, you try to nade them, you try to throw down a smoke, you do everything so that your team has time to rotate over and reinforce the site, because then the numbers are more even and your team has a bigger chance of holding the site and denying the quick execute and bomb plant. So as a CT, do not try to get kills, focus on delaying the terrorist push, and make time for your team to rotate over to assist you. Tip number 2 is something that I briefly mentioned already in my pistol guides video, but it's essentially that every player likes to hold different angles on CT side and likes to defend bomb sites differently. But for your individual angles, if you got some preferences, you really should know how to work around them with your utility, especially with your smokes. If you're someone who likes to defend B on Sandstone aggressively, you should know that you can just drop a smoke on your feet like that if you're getting pushed, and then you fall back, or you can hold an angle like this to kind of benefit from the smoke and from the terrorists not knowing what's on the other side. You should know that you can smoke off a sniper nest by throwing a smoke something like this. Not ideal. Ideally that one should land over here, but you got the spirit. You should know that if you like to hold this more passive angle, you can throw a smoke up here in order to smoke off the side entrance here. If you like to play from CT spawn here, you should know how to throw smoke against this wall to effectively smoke this off. I don't really know a pinpoint lineup here myself, I really have to do some research here. But yeah, just basically know how to work around your preferences with your utility and know how to smoke from the angles you like to play on. The next thing is something that a lot of people do wrong. I do it wrong myself sometimes because I miscalculate how the round will go. And it's that if you're holding a side and your team gets attacked on the other side, and especially if the bomb gets spotted on the other side, take the fastest way to rotate to the other side and help your team out. Something that is especially pretty common here on Sandstone. The A defenders often like to be aggressive here towards garden and also towards middle. And there's basically, like, in theory, there's nothing wrong with it. I want to make another video on being aggressive on CT side and playing with a controlled aggression that allows you map control and more information, which really might help you. But if your team is pressured on the other side, you should always take the quickest way around. If you go for more map control while your teammates are falling on B, you're stuck here, the complete map away from the side you were meant to defend, and you have to retake like from a really disadvantageous position, especially if you're only in like a 2v4 or something. So instead of letting the side fall and retake with only a few members left, always try to defend sides as effectively as possible by rotating between the sides in the quickest way. Next thing, now this is for terrorist side. If you can, plant the bomb as openly as possible. I'm saying if you can because you can't always plant the bomb really openly, because sometimes your team just doesn't have full side control yet, and you just want to get the bomb down in order to maximize the time frame you have to set up and defend the side. And sometimes you also just want to get that cash from a bomb plant, especially if you're on an eco. If you're on an eco and you can get the bomb plant, that's basically job done. You don't need to win an eco, you just need to get that extra money to be able to buy real guns next round. But if your team has established full side control, if it has cleared towards corridor here and towards CT spawn and also has cleared arches, then you should always go for a plant as open as possible, something like over here. The reason being that the more angles the bomb is exposed, the more angles the CTs will have to check when they retake, and also the more options you have to set up for the retake. If the bomb's planted over here, you could theoretically hide inside arches and sort of access the bomb. You could hide in door room and either peek out here, or if you even know a lineup for this, that would be great. You could also hide in sniper nest. So the CTs, when rotating the side, will have to check all these angles. They can't just isolate some angle, smoke the bomb and stick it, because you're just you could be anywhere and they are aware of it. So in order to waste as much of their time as possible to clear every angle the bomb is exposed to, you should just try to plant the bomb as openly as possible. So the next tip is something really basic that a lot of people still do wrong, and it's the idea that your utility always should serve a certain purpose. Do not just yeet your nade away. That's something that really often happens, especially early round, for example here on Sandstone. If you think there might be a CT around middle, you can go for this blind nade, but you don't know, like the chances 50-50, either he's there or he's not there. And if you have no info whatsoever, that nade could be used in a more logical way otherwise. If you're, for example, about to take A side and you threw down your smoke, that smoke is an effective one, so that one's allowed. and maybe before you even hit someone for half health on A long, you can follow that up with a nade, because you know that nade might actually kill him, or at least inflict some more damage, so maybe he's one shot. But if you still hold on to that nade and you're in an afterplant, for example, and you don't know exactly where the CTs are, don't just blindly throw the nade at Z, for example, because you don't know if the nade is actually having a great chance to hit someone, and if it doesn't do any damage, it just you just wasted a nade that you could have used to like throw on side to deny a bomb defuse or something. Same with flashes. Do not just throw flashes, because if you throw a flash, you also want to benefit from it, so use flashes mainly if you want to actually peek out and take a fight. So in conclusion, just keep in mind that your utility always should serve a certain purpose, and sort of know what that purpose might be. So, for the next tip, I wanted to look at the best weapons for force buys, and especially when you try to buy as much as you can against a full buy of the enemy team. So, if you're CT on sense in general, and you go up against people who you know have AKs, and you just can't afford a proper rifle and armor, so you want to go for something that is most likely to win you a fight. And the thing about these rifles is, if you give them a chance to shoot back at you, you're most likely going to lose, because rifles just have better DPS on most ranges, if you exclude the shotgun on close range. So the way you really want to go against these full buys is you want to have weapons which can actually one-shot someone. This is especially important on CT side, because on T side sometimes you might also just buy SMGs and rush aside, because you have the run and gun benefit and it might be harder for the CTs to hit you. But if you're on CT side and you're playing against AKs, the go-to weapons you should be buying are shotguns and deagles. And that's because, as already mentioned, these weapons can one-shot a player no matter what armor he got. You could also include the M40 here, but obviously the M40 requires a hell lot of aim, and I always think that the deagle is just more viable, and if you can afford a shotgun, happy days. That one's even going to one-shot on the body. So with these weapons, you just want to hold tight corners. The reason being that you don't only want to be able to kill the player coming around and not die, you also want to be able to pick his weapon up, because if you manage to kill a player in one shot, he can't fire back at you, he can't headshot you with his rifle. You can just pick up the AK, and suddenly your team has a way better chance of winning the round. So keep in mind, when going up against full buys and you yourself can't full buy, mainly try to one-shot the people, because if you miss that first shot, they're most likely going to kill you with their better weapons. And if you manage to kill them, you should be able to pick up their weapon, and thus giving your team a better chance of actually winning the round. The next thing is pretty straightforward, and it's more some kind of a moral responsibility. If you got a hacker on your team in competitive mode, kick him. There's no question that you might benefit from him being on your team, but hacking is just so fucked up, and you should really know that just winning because a hacker carried you by spawn trapping every opponent for 10 rounds straight is just not something that makes you a better player. If you gain points from being in a team with a hacker, you're just a fucked up human being, sorry to say that. So hacker ruins the game for everyone, even for yourself, because you don't seriously get better, you just get easy points and maybe climb a rank, but that will say nothing about your skill. So in order to ensure a fair 5v5 or even a 5v4, if that's what it takes to punish the hacker for actually hacking, kick these motherfuckers. And the last tip is a general rule when attacking B on Sandstone. Basically always nade stack archers with your team. The reason being that archers is one of the most aids positions to play against. In archers there's two angles that CTs could be sitting in, this corner, and if you have to peek out, if you have to peek into archers, you always have to decide which corner you're going to peek, and if the guys in the other corner, or even if there's two guys, if you peek one, the other guy's gonna trade you almost 100%. So in order to prevent this, you and your team should just clear out this extremely dangerous position by nade stacking it, and you should really make this a habit. If you don't have any info on whether or not there's someone in there, just make sure there isn't and nade stack it, and you really should even nade stack both of the angles. So if you want to clear the far corner, you throw a nade like this, and if you want to clear close corner, you throw it against this pillar, or I don't know, maybe this pillar or something. So just make sure that this crappy position is clear if you plant the bomb. This is really important. So and that's really it for this video. Hope this helped, and I'll see you around. Peace.